Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Emmanuel Christian Seminary in the Thompson Center. This is our first Emmanuel Institutes seminar of 2012. We're happy to have all of you here from so many different places. And we're delighted to have Doug Foltz with us this evening. He is our guest presenter from Tuscola, Illinois. Doug comes with a background in ministry over a number of years. Most recently, he's been serving as the Director of Project Management and Coaching for Stadia New Church Strategies, based out of California, but operating across the United States and in a few countries around the world. Doug has always impressed me as someone that recognizes the value of the World Wide Web, helping us in ministry to be more not only efficient, but effective. And so his task this evening is to help us to become a little more aware of the good and useful ministry tools that we can find on the internet. And he'll guide us through that. Many of you have your computers there, and I'm sure he'll give you a chance to follow along as he goes. Let's bow our heads, thank God together, and pray His blessing on Doug as he leads us. Heavenly Father, you know how important it is for us to stay sharp and to learn and to grow. It helps us to be more aware of the many, many ways in which you resource us as your men and women in the church to guide people home to you. And so tonight, we ask your blessing on our friend Doug, that he would draw from his wealth of experience, much of it gained from the daily care of the church and those who serve your church that he offers. Give us good minds to learn and to go home tonight with some ideas that will make our ministries more effective. We pray this in the name of Christ. Amen.
Welcome. All right. Thanks, John. John, thanks for inviting me, and thanks for everyone to come out tonight. I love what John is doing here and Emmanuel is doing here through the Institutes. I think this is a great program and really should be a model for our seminaries around the country. As John said, I'm currently serving with Stadia. I'm the Director of Project Management and Coaching there. I'm a graduate of Emmanuel, graduated in 2003. Left from here and helped start a church in Charlotte, North Carolina. And so all that to say, I am not some kind of tech genius. I don't program apps. I don't write software. I don't even lead the IT department at my church. I am a pastor at heart. And what I want to help you tonight with is the same thing that I help my church planners with, and that's to be able to figure out what are some of the tools on the web that you can use that can aid you in your ministry and maybe save you a little bit of time and money as well along the way. So before we dive in, I want to hit you here with a couple of just guiding principles. All right? Online resources, they should enhance your ministry and not be a distraction. All right? You can spend easily 40 hours a week learning these tools and never really be an expert on any of them at all. All right. The crazy thing about the web is that there is a new tool, a new startup company, a new social media coming out almost every single day. There is no way to keep up with it all. I mean, literally, there are tech bloggers out there who all they do is spend every hour of the day learning about these new companies and what features they offer and how you can use them. So as a pastor, if you're thinking, okay, well, I got to keep up with all this, give it up. You're going to have to leave that behind right now. A good motto for you would be to stay reasonably behind in terms of tech, because it's changing so fast, you're not going to be able to keep up with all of it. All right? And that's the second point, is that technology does change fast, and we really shouldn't keep up. Third point there is that your church has a digital footprint. All right, a digital footprint. That first impression that used to be when you'd come and you'd shake somebody's hand, you know? How you doing? All right. Missed you at church last week. That's no longer our first impression. Our first impression today is a digital impression one that's made on the web. Now for some of us, that's just weird and foreign. I grew up in a small town. I'm back in a small town now, not all that different than the cultures and values of here in East Tennessee, where you still value face-to-face, right? But today's younger generation, that's not necessarily the case. A lot of times their first interaction is digitally. I've got a friend of mine that's got a high school daughter, and I'm glad it's him and not me. But one of the things that's really funny, he shared this story with me the other day where he said, I don't know what to do. They met each other on Facebook, and they've been texting back and forth, and I got her phone the other day, and they're saying that I love you. And he's like, well, how can they love each other? They've never even met in person. Right? But that's today's generation, is that our impression that we make, our first impression, is more than likely going to be a digital impression. And so we need to pay attention to that. All right, I want to introduce you to a friend and a good colleague of mine. He's sitting right here in the front row, Patrick Bradley. Patrick serves on staff with me at Stadia. He's one of our project managers and does many, many other things for us at Stadia. And so I brought him along because I want to give you an opportunity to kind of use some of the technology tonight that we're going to be talking about. All right, so I'm going to give you some of his contact information. And as we go tonight, we're going to kind of do a live, ongoing kind of Q&A. So while I'm talking, if you have a question, Patrick's going to be your answer guy. All right? So for those of you who are familiar and comfortable with email, here's his email address up there. All right? And for those of you who think that email is techie, all right, consider that the first email was sent in 1971, right? And that email is no longer the way of communication for those 30 and under. All right? Lots of businesses, I keep seeing these articles online about how businesses are trying to find ways to eliminate email within their system. Kind of crazy to think about. All right, secondly, we've got Patrick's texting number there, his phone number that you can text him at. The first text was sent 20 years ago in 1992. Doesn't seem like that long ago. And it was once the preferred method of communication for teens everywhere. Still is highly used. But now they're saying that texting, too, is on the decline. All right? So if you're a little more with it, all right, you can Skype Patrick. Here's his Skype name. All right? Skype was developed in 2003, so not quite 10 years ago. All right, right there with Skype, you can do your instant messaging, you can do video chats, you can do screen sharing, phone calls, all those kinds of good things right through Skype. I'd actually prefer if you just instant message them. If you try and video chat them, that might be a little awkward for our conversation tonight. If you're even more with it, there's Facebook, all right? And here's where you can reach Patrick on Facebook. All right, Facebook was released in 2004, a year after Skype. It began as just a novel tool for college students. Facebook is now a major communication tool with over 800 million users. And now here's the kicker. Half of that 800 million use Facebook every day. Yeah, some of them don't ever get off of it, right? If you're even a little more modern and with it, we've got Twitter. Here's Patrick's Twitter handle, all right? And you can send Patrick a direct message or a tweet. Twitter was released in 2006, and much to my surprise, and really anyone over the age of 30, this surprises them, is that Twitter has become a major communication platform. And it's also become a major search engine where people go to get their news now, which is scary. And then if you're really, really with it, and you are on the bleeding edge of technology, you can reach Patrick through Google+. Now, I'm not going to tell you how. All all right? But if you're a Google Pluser, I don't even know what you call those people yet, all right, then you'll know how to do it. It was released just last year in 2011. So if you're with it and you're on Google+, you can reach Patrick that way as well. All right, what I want to do tonight is go through several different tools. And the reality is we could probably spend an entire semester going through a lot of this stuff. And so we're not going to be able to really laser focus and hone in and really dig really deep on a lot of these things. So what I want to do tonight is kind of a shotgun method, all right? We're going to hit some of these things. We're going to hit them hard. We're going to hit them fast. We're going to take some breaks along the way for Q&As for you guys to ask some questions. All right, as you can feel free to start hitting Patrick even now with your questions that you might have. And when we have the breaks, if he hasn't answered all of them or if he sees that there's some questions that have come up 2 or 3 times, we'll bring those up with the entire group. All right. I want to start off by talking a little bit about some of the resources that are available for you in the creative arts and worship. All right? The first tool I want to talk about is called Planning Center. All right? And it is a tool that will help you plan your worship services. Let me put this here on the other screen so you can see it. All right, Planning Center. All right, this is a really helpful tool. It helps you to schedule your volunteers. All right, so you can take your entire worship service, all the different elements that you're going to have, the songs, the special music, your communion, your sermon time, your offering time, all those different elements of worship, and you can plug it into this online program. And you can schedule your volunteers right from the app. All right, so what it'll do is it'll contact people. They'll be able to put in their availability. It will prompt them and ask them basically, hey, can you make it at this time to be able to be a part of this element of our service? And the nice thing about it is not only is it going to ask them and schedule it, you're going to see their response in the program. But it'll also send them reminders. So, on Saturday when they've already forgotten that they said they were going to be there to help you with the offering or the greeting, they'll be reminded and prompted that they need to come. All right? You can also, if you're a musician, this program allows you to transpose your music, to put your rehearsal files online. So if you have a band practice on, say, Wednesday night, on Monday, you could put those rehearsal files online. Your band members can be listening to the songs ahead of time. They can have the music sheets ahead of time so that maybe they can come to the rehearsal prepared. All right? They have a free version of this, but for many of you, you're probably going to be wanting to take advantage of one of the paid versions just to be able to get the amount of users in it that you would need. The cost of it is about $14 to $29 a month. And it is a very, very popular application for many of our younger pastors that we work with at Stadia. All right, I want to talk to you next just about some free resources. This is one of the beauties of the web. And to me, one of the things that really is a kingdom-minded thing that's really happening within churches right now is that they're putting all sorts of free resources out on the web for anyone to use. It used to be, you might get together with 3 or 4 pastors, locally, get some sermon ideas together, brainstorm, maybe share some of your resources together. Now, literally, you can do that with pastors all over the world. And some of the most innovative and creative churches are sharing their content with everyone else for free. And I love it because that's really a big-time kingdom mentality behind it. That they're saying, you know what, we've already created this stuff, we've already used it, we've got the resources to hire the creative people to be able to do these designs, to be able to come up with this stuff, and we just want to share this with other churches so that they can benefit from it and reach more people for Jesus with these things. So on your list, on your handout, I've listed several of these. And I want to highlight a couple of them for you. Do we have more handouts, John? Oh, let's see here. I have a hard time seeing my own screen here.
Take mine, I'll share with you. I got a coffee machine.
There it is.
Sorry.
All right. A few of you have probably heard of Life Church. All right. If you have viewed their online venues, you might know them as lifechurch.tv. This is a great church, has some very creative stuff that they put online. And I just want to show you kind of an example of what they've got available that is free to you. All right. So let's say you're sitting down. It's January, so you guys are probably all working out your sermon schedule for the next 18 months, right? All right. So let's say you can come here to this site and you can get all sorts of different ideas. Let's say, February's coming up and we want to do a sermon series on the topic of love. We'll skip that first one. That's probably not too good for this area. All right, so keep going, huh? That wasn't really love, was it? Difficult people. That's not relevant to any of you, right? You don't have those? All right, it's a series taught by Craig Groeschel. Tells you about some of the different topics that it covers. And here's some of the neat stuff, is that here, for free, they're giving you a message series graphic. All right, if you had a designer that you paid to do that, you'd probably pay $100 or so for that. They've got a video available for you, so that if you want to show a video to kind of advertise the sermon series that you've got coming up, you can download that for free. All right, let's look at a couple other ones here. Let's maybe pick something that's not so racy. Click on this sermon series called World Changers. And then here's a message DVD that you can be used for the teaching. So if you were maybe a church that had very little resources, maybe you had a pastor that left and you're in between and you need to do a video type of a sermon series, or you want to do a video sermon series in a small group, you can download this file, burn it onto a DVD, and be able to use it. You've got message outlines that you can use. Okay, so what we're seeing here is that they have put a lot of their creative resources online, available for free, that anybody can use. They also have put on children and youth ministry curriculum and resources. All right. Now I used to be a children's minister. I served at a children's minister at First Christian here in Kingsport. I served as a children's minister in Charlotte, and curriculum is expensive. All right, and especially nowadays with today's economy, we're all looking for ways. How can we kind of cut back? What are some things that we can do? And here, this church writes their own curriculum, and instead of selling it, they're providing it for free. So we could go here and say, okay, let's see what they've got for 0 or 2-year-olds to 5-year-olds. All right. And here's a 10-part series called The Ark. And when we click on it, we can see here's a series graphic that we can download, a calendar that we can download. They use plays, it looks like, for this one. So there's cast member information and all the different pieces of the curriculum, all here available for free, that you can download. The teaching videos, or if you want to do a video-based teaching, you've got it all right there that you can download and be able to show within your children's ministry. All right, let me show you the next one here. Here's another site that I like that has lots of free stuff. It's called Stuff I Can Use. All right. This is organized in a similar fashion. They call these a swag. I'm not sure what that means, but it's organized by their sermon series, okay? So if we wanted to pull up the sermon series here called Good versus Great, all right? This is they've got this in the young adult category. And so we've got a countdown video, we've got bumper videos. If you want to edit the Photoshop files, they've got the Photoshop files available right there for you. All right? Different ones have different things in it. Here's one for student ministries called Awakening. And here's a 4-part series that you can download the audio files for and listen to. Again, you've got your bumper videos, you've got Photoshop files that you can edit and be able to really get a head start on the creative stuff that you're doing within your youth ministry. And the thing that I love about all this is that it's free. It doesn't cost you anything to be able to use. And so if you're in a pinch and you're trying to cut back, these are great ways. Or if you just want good curriculum, for the most part, these things are very good. All right. Let's pause there real quick, and let's take a little Q&A break here. Patrick, have we been anybody hitting you up with stuff yet?
Have any questions yet?
No. Oh, guys, come on now. You are more techie and more savvy than that. All right, so let me do it the old-fashioned way. All right, we'll stop and I'll just ask for questions. Anything that this is spurring in your head? Anything that you want to ask me about? Kind of these resources within the creative arts. Nothing. You guys are the easiest crowd I've ever had. We'll fly right through tonight. All right. Do you need to see the screen again to be able to get Patrick's contact info? Does everyone have that? All right. Well, feel free to hit him up with some things. Let me show you one more while we're on this topic. Since you didn't have some questions, I'll have enough time here to show you one more. This is a church in Quincy, Illinois, a couple hours from where I live, called The Crossing. Jerry Harris is the pastor there. And the church, this is not their website, but this is a site that they put up just for the leaders of their church. And they have all sorts of training videos, all sorts of teaching materials that they put for their leaders all up on this site. Well, the great thing about it is it's on the web, so if we want to use it, we can use it too. Right? So let me just give you a little bit of an example. All right? This site is deep. There's a lot of stuff here. But here's something on small groups. All right? If you want to train your small group coaches, they have put online all of their videos and teaching materials that they use for training their coaches. Now you may not want to just show their stuff, but this is a great resource if you're trying to train some small group leaders and you want to get a head start and you want to see what some other growing churches are doing. You can come here and look and see how they've been training their small group leaders and teachers. Just a very good site. You can spend hours on this site just checking it out and seeing all the different materials and all the different videos and things that they have on here on their site. Here's another one that they do called Finding Your Core Values. All right, just all kinds of different resources that they have to develop and grow the leaders within their congregation. All right. Let me go on here to the next section. And in this section, I'm going to talk about communications. Right? And with communications, social media has become a huge part of communications. But we're going to save that for its own segment. All right? We're going to talk a little bit about just some normal communications here first. All right? A little bit old school. Go email, phone, and fax. All right? So the first resource that I want to show you is one of my favorites. And again, it's a great resource just for the fact alone that it is free. And we use this with every single one of our church planners and get them set up with it. All right? I've got this set up with my home church here in Tuscola, Illinois. And it's called Google Apps. All right? Everybody has a website, and with that website you have a domain. And with that domain, one of the things that we always want to get set up in terms of communication is our email. And very typically, we pay for email either through our internet service provider or through our host of our website. But you don't have to do that. There's a better way to do it that gives you a better productivity tool that's free through Google. Now, how many of you are familiar with Gmail? Right? Most of you. All right? And so basically what you're doing here is you're setting up Gmail accounts with your internet domain. So, you can see here, fcctuscola.com. That's the website of the church that I attend. And so we have set up email for them with that domain. So now the pastor, Scott Zorn, can have Scott at FCC Tuscola set up instead of a Scott at gmail.com set up, and still be able to use that same Gmail tool. All right. Let me just show you a couple of things here within Gmail. Get to it here. Maybe a couple of tricks that you haven't seen before. This is not an account that I use regularly, so it's just got a bunch of junk mail in it. All right, but you can you can do a lot of things all within this Gmail. All right, so I can go back to my inbox here. Within Gmail, you can put labels on things. You can see here that I have now marked this conversation as not important. If I want to highlight something as being important, I can just click it. And then I can sort my mail to say, put the important things first. And it's going to do that. I can sort my mail and say unread first. I can sort my mail, say I want to star something. I can now say starred first. And it's going to put the starred things first. You can create kind of labels and categories within Gmail, so that let's say that, for instance, when I work with a church planner, one of the things that I do is I set up an email label for that particular project that I'm working on. And you can set up a filter to say basically that anytime an email comes in from this person, I want it to go into this folder. I want to put this label on it. And those are all ways that you can kind of organize your email and be able to tackle that inbox a little bit. So if you've got that blessed person within your congregation who always forwards you email, you know who I'm talking about. I don't have to name names. All right, we all have that person. For me, it's my grandfather. I love him, but he forwards me email. All right. You set up an email filter, so it takes it right out of your inbox and puts it into a special folder. Might want to just call that one spam. And that way you never have to look at it. All right? So those are things that you can do to kind of increase your productivity and to be able to sort through your email a little bit quicker. Now, interestingly enough, Gmail has really grown over the years. You can actually even place phone calls right from within Gmail nowadays, which actually can be a handy thing. I mean, we all have our email up quite frequently, and so to be able to quickly dial a phone number and just talk right through your computer is not a bad thing at all. All right. Another app within the Google Apps system is the calendaring app. And this functions very much like any other calendar that you would use. If you use Outlook on your computer, or if you are a Mac user and you use iCal, it's going to feel very, very similar to that. Some of the nice features that you can do with this, though, is that you can share your calendar very easily with other people. All right? You can also make a calendar public. So if you want to have a church calendar and you want to embed that into maybe your website, you can put all your events right in here. And once it's embedded in your website, which we're not going to go into because you probably won't do that anyway, right? But once you get this embedded on your website, and you have your 12-year-old that does that for you, all right? You can come right in here to your calendar, add a new event, a Wednesday night Bible study or whatever that is, and it'll populate it right out to that website for you automatically. This is great too for a lot of guys use this to share calendars with people who they want to see their calendar. So like if you want your wife to know where you're at, or you want your husband to know where you're at, you can share that calendar with them. They can pull it up and they can look at it and see it. The other nice thing about both the Google Calendar and the Gmail applications are that you can completely give control of those things off to another person. So if you're not tech savvy at all and you don't want to answer your own email, and you have someone else that organizes your calendar for you, you can give them control of those things. They can log in. They can check your email and answer it for you. They can schedule your business appointments and your coffees and your networking meetings and all that sort of stuff for you right there. Another nice advantage to this is that all the Google apps live in what is called the cloud. All right? How many of you, if you're all familiar with the cloud, I'll skip it. Is everyone familiar? Not everyone. Okay. So it used to be that everything, if you created a document, where did it live? It lived right on your computer, right? You had to save it. Back in the old, I was talking, when I was in elementary school, we had the old Apple computers, and you had those big, 5 1/4 floppies that you had to stick in there, and then it was smaller. It was a little 3-inch thing, all right? Well, now you don't have to do any of that at all. Now everything is saved in the cloud. So what the cloud is just a big, huge computer farm somewhere that's connected to the internet, and your computer connects to that big computer farm through the internet, and all your files are stored there. So where that's an advantage for you is that let's say you've got a mobile phone. I see a few of those around. If you make a change on your phone then communicates with that cloud and tells the cloud, hey, come and update it here on the computer. So when you come to the computer, boom, it's updated. All right? Same thing with files. You can save files now, and instead of saving them on your computer, you save them on the cloud. And when you dump coffee on your computer and you blow the thing up, you haven't lost anything. All right? They're still there. And we're going to talk a little bit later about a couple of tools to use in the cloud that just make file syncing extremely easy. All right. Let's talk about one more Google product here, and that's called Google Docs. And this one, I really think, has the potential to save your church the most money, all right? Google Docs is basically Microsoft Office that lives in the cloud, all right? If you can use Word and Excel, you can use these programs as well. They call them Docs and Spreadsheet, all right? So if I want to create a new document, I just go Create Document. And does that look at all familiar? Looks very similar to what we've seen in Word over the years, only maybe just a little bit simpler. Now here's what makes the cloud very powerful and what really utilizes the connectivity of the web. Before, if you wanted to create a Word document, you had to create it on your computer, and maybe you emailed that to somebody in the church. Maybe you emailed it out to the elders. Maybe it's your elders' meeting minutes, right? And then somebody said, well, you know what, we got to make a change here on page 2, and so they make a change and email it back to you, and now you've got 2 copies of it. And then somebody else that makes a change, and they email it back to you, and now you got 3 copies of it, and before long, you got so many copies of the thing, you don't know which one's the right one, which one's the wrong one. You pass out the wrong one in the next meeting, and it causes all kinds of mess. Now we can collaborate, and we can share all working on the same document. So I have this new document. I can click share. All right. And I could say right here that I wanted to share this maybe with Patrick. And I can say, you know what? Patrick's that guy who always messes up my files. He's not, but he's that guy. So I don't want him to edit it. I just want him to be able to view it. All right? Or maybe, you know, this is if in that elder situation, you want everyone to be able to comment on it. You don't want them to edit the document, but you want them to still be able to comment. You can just choose, you know, those kind of privileges that you're assigning to someone. You click Save and Share. It's going to send them an email and give them the ability to get in and see that document, make changes if you've given them that permission. And here's the really cool thing that kind of always kind of impresses me, is that if I've saved this document from or shared this document with Patrick, I can be sitting here working on it. And we do this all the time. I live in Illinois and Patrick lives in California. So I can be working on a document, he can have it open on his computer, and we can both be working on the same document at the same time and seeing what each other is doing, which is a pretty handy tool. Right? You can use this within your church too. All right, let me look here at my notes and see if there's anything else on Google Docs. Yeah, let me just talk a little bit about the cost savings, all right? Because I did build this as a way for you to save a little bit of money, right? All right, so if you go out and you buy a copy of Microsoft Office, you're probably going to spend $125, $200, depending on what version of it you buy. You've got to have a copy of it for every computer within your office. If you've got 3, 4, or 5 of those, you can easily spend $1,000 on software right there just to get the software that you need on your machines. And this is free, all right? So big savings for you right there. This is also completely cloud-based, so the files that you create don't ever live on your computer. It's not taking up hard drive space, that sort of thing. So again, let's give you another scenario for the cloud. Let's say that you go on a trip and you leave the laptop at home because you're trying to not do a whole lot of work. And while you're on your trip, there's some emergency that comes up or something happens and you've got to have access to these files. You can go onto any computer that's connected to the internet, go right to Google Docs, log in, and there's all your files. So we're getting to the point where your computer really isn't as important. What's more important are the files and things that you have that live in the cloud, and you can access that from any device, whether it's a phone, a tablet, or a computer. You can access that as long as you're connected to the internet. All right. I said we were done with Google, or with Google Apps, but we're not quite done with Google yet. Let me show you one more tool with Google. All right, let's see here. And this was one that came out a couple of years ago. It's called Google Voice. All right, anybody in here using Google Voice? Ephraim is, and Patrick, so okay, good. Oh, it says this service not available. That's because it's with mine. I will bring it up on my account. All right, what Google Voice is a way for you to route your phone number. All right, let me get logged in here. And so what you can do is Google will give you a phone number, and you can give that phone number out to anyone just like you normally would. Only it's not really a phone number, to be honest. It's in a route. So what I have is my phone number that I give out to everyone is not my phone number that rings my cell. I don't want really anyone to have that because I want to be able to control when I'm available, basically. So let's say I've given you my Google Voice number, and let's say I don't have my cell phone with me, or I'm out of minutes for the month, or whatever it happens to be, and I'm at home. I can have that number forwarded to my home number so that when you call my Google Voice number, it rings my landline. Or let's say I leave my phone at home and I'm over at Patrick's house and I say, I left my phone at home, I'm expecting a call. I can log in here to Google Voice and I can tell Google Voice, hey, now what I want you to do is instead of ringing my cell phone, I want you to ring Patrick's cell phone. Right? Or let's say, I can have it ring multiple phones at once. Let's say I want it to ring the office phone. And also at the same time, I want it to ring my cell phone. So if I get up and I leave, I don't have to remember to switch it back and forth. All right? Now here's where it starts to get really cool, is that with Google Voice, what you can do is you can set up kind of custom groups. All right? So how many of you have that person that just seems to call you at all hours or doesn't really respect your boundaries, or you, again, might know who I'm talking about, all right? You can set up and have that go automatically to voicemail so that if you're not in a place where you have time to deal with that, you can have it go that way. Let's say you want to have one phone number that you give out, but you want to have some custom voicemail set up. So you can create your contacts into groups and maybe have a church group, maybe have a family group, maybe have a special voicemail for your sweetie, right? So that when they call, they're going to hear a very specific voicemail that's kind of geared for them instead of just the generic one. Now, because of the internet and because of how connected we get, one of the problems is that we're almost too connected, and sometimes it's hard to turn it off. And it's hard to, you literally are available 24/7, which isn't a good thing for us, spiritually, emotionally. It can get to be a little overkill. So one of the nice things about Google Voice is if you're like me and you're just not, if the phone rings, it doesn't matter what I'm doing. I have a really, really hard time not picking it up and answering it. All right? So what you can do with Google Voice is if you want to be a little more disciplined is you can actually go in and you can click a button that says Do Not Disturb. And now you're not disturbed. It will automatically, if you get a call, it'll forward it to voicemail for you. Now, another nice feature is that it will allow you to do free texting. So if I wanted to send Patrick a message here, I can send it to him straight from here rather than texting it from my phone, and he'll get it on his phone. Okay? Now, the other cool thing about that is free. Right? Instead of paying $5 a month for a texting plan, or instead of paying $20 a month for a texting plan, whatever you're doing, you can get that completely free through Google Voice. If you've got a smartphone, all the smartphones have an app for Google Voice as well. So you can still do your texting from your phone if that's your preference. All right, so there's another money-saving tip for you. One other cool thing that Google Voice will do for you. Oh, see, look at this. Patrick's already responded. 2 or 3 so far. All right. You'll see that I can get voicemails right in here in Google Voice. All right. It will email those. It'll transcribe the email or the voicemail and email it to me, which is fantastic. I don't have to sit there and listen to it. I can read it, which I can actually do a lot quicker than I can listen to it. All right. I can also listen to the voicemail right here if I wanted to. I can respond. I can click call. It'll call that person. I can click text. It'll text them. It'll do all kinds of stuff. If I have a caller that I want to block, I can block that caller. Okay? Now, here's the other cool thing about Google Voice is that just like Gmail, whereas in Gmail, like any email program, you can go into a search field and search, and boom, it'll pull up all your emails that have that reference in it. You can do the same thing in Google Voice. Okay, so all your text messages, all your voicemails are all stored in Google Voice, and they can search it. Now, Google loves that because they're learning more about you, and they can custom ads to you. All right? And that's why they give it away for free, is because they're making billions and billions of dollars off of understanding you and knowing how to target ads at you. But, you know, I don't have anything to hide, so I'm not really too worried about it. I'm a pretty boring person, so I don't think Google's learning too much. All right? So a really fascinating tool to me, one that I use every single day, and that, again, is free. One thing that we have done for our church planners, because they're always on a budget, they're always trying, you know, to figure out how can we get started with the least amount of money, is that we'll set them up with a Google Voice account as their church phone number. And they don't have offices, okay? They can't afford those yet. And so what they can do is they can say, okay, well, you know, we can have some key volunteers, key leaders, or staff people that, you know, we'll just set that phone number up to forward to. And when it's your turn to be forwarded, have the number forwarded to you. You know, we'll set it up and have it forwarded to you. You could do this within your church if you wanted to have an elder on call. You could have a special phone number kind of set up just for emergency pastoral needs or emergency prayer needs, and have the elder on call, have that number forwarded to them. So if it's 2 o'clock in the morning, they're calling them and not you. Okay? So lots of different things that you can do with this.
Plus, if I can add.
Yeah, go for it, Patrick.
Plus, for the planters, this phone number follows you. So no matter what phone number you've connected it to on the back end, whether it's your home phone, a cell phone, whatever, you never have to change that phone number that you display to the public. So
Correct.
if the church planners do get an office someday with a paid landline, they don't have to
Right.
change their business cards or letterhead or anything.
Yeah, just so that I'll repeat that just so everybody can hear it, is that with this number, it goes with you anywhere. So let's say you change phone numbers. I could say, oh, you know what, I'm tired of AT&T, I'm going to go to Verizon. And I change my cell phone number. Well, I don't have to change that number that I've already given out to everybody because I'm using that Google Voice. Okay, so it kind of becomes your number forever, I hope. I hope they don't kill it. But yeah, it's a fantastic tool. All right, let me show you the next one here. All right, the next tool is called TimeBridge. And there are a couple that do this. There's one called TimeBridge that I use a lot. There's another one called Doodle. All right, but what TimeBridge does for you is this is a scheduler. All right, everybody's busy. No one has margin. Trying to schedule a meeting is crazy. All right, so you're scheduling that next elders meeting, and instead of sending out emails and saying, well, who can meet at Thursday at 6 p.m. and 3 guys can and 2 can't. Well, who can meet at Friday at 6? Well, 3 guys can and 2. Instead of doing that, what you can do is you can go within this app, you can put in everyone's email that you want to come to the meeting, and then you can propose up to 5 different meeting times. All right? And then that email goes out to everyone and says, hey, we want to schedule a meeting. Here's the proposed times. Tell me what times that you can be there. All right? What it'll also do is if you want to have an agenda for that meeting, you can tie that agenda, put it right in there so that they get the agenda. If you have files for the meeting that you want them to have the accessibility to, you can attach the files to it, and they get all that right through that email that the TimeBridge sends out to them. All right? So everybody responds, and then the program kind of decides, okay, here's the out of everything that we've done, out of those 5 times, here's the one that works the best. Sends everyone an email. They can download the calendar appointment right to their computer and have it in there. If they're not responding, it'll send them reminders. Hey, don't forget, we're trying to schedule this meeting. Respond and let us know. And it keeps track of all that right here within the app. An incredibly useful app for a busy church when you're trying to schedule meetings like that. All right. Real briefly, I want to talk about faxing. Faxing is one of those that not a lot of people fax anymore, but it still seems like you got to have one just for that occasional use. All right. Well, rather than having the big bulky fax machine and paying money for that, faxing can be all done online now as well. There's 2 services that I would recommend that if you're looking for a service to do this for you. One is called eFax, and the other is Faxage. Both of those are on your handout. And what you do with this is rather than putting a piece of paper into the machine and typing in the number and all that good stuff, what you do is you can scan it, or you can take an electronic document and you can type in the fax number that you want. It's basically like sending an email. Instead of sending an email, you're sending it to the fax number. And it'll take that electronic document and it'll spit it out the other end in the fax machine. Right? It saves you a lot of time, saves you a lot of hassle. And usually these are, $5 to $7 a month is what you'll pay for that. Right? I don't know what you pay nowadays for a fax line if you have a fax line at the church, but my guess is it's probably a little more than that.
Plus the machine, the toner, and the paper.
Plus the machine, toner, paper, and that annoying sound that faxes make that I just don't really like. All right. Next tool is for group emails. Oh, and I didn't put that one on here, so let me Google it real quick. And this is what my friend was joking about when, if you weren't here earlier, I said I had a friend who saw that I was doing this tonight, and he said, finding ministry resources on the web, it'll be really short. Just tell him Google and walk out the door. All right. This is called MailChimp, and there's several like this, and I've got those in your handout. MailChimp, BombBomb, Constant Contact, lots of different ones that you can use. All right? But basically what these do is instead of sending out a text email, you can send out a beautiful, almost looking like a website kind of newsletter. You guys get these all the time from different organizations, usually soliciting something or advertising something. But you could set up your entire church newsletter all within this, send it out as an email, and send it out to your entire church in one big blast. And the nice thing about this, too, is it will track who's opened it, what your response rate is, what they clicked within it. So if you had a link to something on your website, you're going to know, who clicked on it. So all these things are really handy to make your emails just look spectacular. And again, remember, this is part of that digital footprint. You may think, well, why waste the time? I could just type it out and send it. All right? But this is communicating in a way that really kind of leaves a better impression. Using pictures and using images and visuals, and they make it easy. If you can use Word, you can use something like this, create a very professional-looking email to send out to people within your church. Let's pause there real quick, and let me ask Patrick, do we have any questions that we can answer?
Yeah. In your opinion, what is the single most useful free web tool to help pastors with detail management?
With detail management?
Yeah, keeping track of people to follow up with, and to-do list, that kind of thing.
Let me think on that during the break, and I'll give you an answer. All right? Any other ones? Okay. Any questions from you guys before we pause for a little break here this evening?
That's it. What is the Google Docs and all its forms totally compatible with Word and Excel and all those things? They work back?
Yeah, it does work back and forth. You can take a Word document. That's a great question. What he asked, in case you didn't hear, was, are the Google Docs compatible with Microsoft Word and Excel and such? And yeah, they are. You can actually take your existing Word documents and upload them right into Google, and it'll turn it into a Google document for you. You can do the reverse of that too, where you can take it and open it up in Word, or you can create a PDF out of it. Whatever you want. You can print just everything like you would normally do in Word.
Is there a simple way to move stuff from Dropbox over to Google Docs?
We're going to talk about Dropbox a little bit later. I don't know that there is a real simple like an uploader. Not that I've heard of. And you can actually, what I think he's referring to is that you can use Google Docs to store things as well. And so, he was asking basically, is there an easy way to take things from Dropbox, which is a tool we're going to talk about in the second half tonight, and put them into Google Docs? And there may be, but there's not an easy one that I know of. All right. Uncanny that he mentions loneliness and relationships. One of the things that we've always got to keep in mind with the web and with digital technology today is that relationships are still important, and there still is a value of face-to-face. You know, our Lord and Savior came in the flesh. He didn't send himself out in an email bomb, right? All right. So there is a certain value of face-to-face, of an incarnational ministry that you just, I think you can't do digitally. All right. One of the greatest champions of technology of our age, who just recently passed, was Steve Jobs, and in his autobiography, where he's talking about all these amazing technological advances that he invented, he says this in one chapter towards the end of the book. He said, "There's a temptation in our networked age to think that ideas can be developed by email and iChat," he said. "That's crazy. Creativity comes from spontaneous meetings, from random discussions. You run into someone, you ask what they're doing, you say, wow, and soon you're cooking up all sorts of ideas." And Jobs was talking about that in the context of work and innovation and coming up with ideas together, but I don't think it's all that different in ministry, that we really can't do ministry entirely behind a computer, that there is a tool, there is a time, and there is a place to use these tools, but ultimately we believe in an incarnational ministry, and we got to have some face-to-face time with people. So just wanted to start off this second session with that reminder. All right, I'm going to put up Patrick's information there again one more time. Don't forget, you can email him if you're old-fashioned, and you can Google Plus him if you're here in the modern age. All right, with all the questions that you've got.
I just figured out that I was logged into my wrong Google Plus profile. I have two.
Oh, you do?
So I was a little slow in responding to a question.
Someone got you on Google Plus. Oh, man, they get extra points. All right. Let's talk about Bible study and sermons now. All right. This, you know, it used to be, and not that long ago, it used to be that you know, a commentary set was considered critical if you were going to be a preacher. I remember being stressed out in Bible college because I couldn't afford one. And I'm like, you know, I'm going to start being in ministry, and I'm going to start teaching. I got to have a commentary. I remember telling my parents, and they're like $1,000, and they're like, nope, you're not getting a commentary set. I got some hand-me-down commentary set that was like from the 1950s, and I was like all this, you know. But nowadays it's completely different. The internet has opened up a whole new world to biblical study and to those resources that we have at the touch of our fingers. You know, it used to be Christian book distributors, and Lifeway was where you go to get you know, resources on Bible study. You know, or if you were really nerdy, you might go to the library, you know, your Bible college or seminary library. I actually went there, I think, twice while I was at Emmanuel. So, you know, but not anymore. Now we typically go to the internet first. All right. You can find all kinds of things. You can find Christian classics, commentaries. You can even find Greek and Hebrew tools available on the web. So let's start off just with sermons, all right? And let me acknowledge first that just downloading someone's sermon and preaching it on Sunday morning is a bad idea, okay? Plagiarism is plagiarism, whether you're stealing it out of an old book, or you're stealing it off your buddy, or you're stealing it off of Craig Groeschel on the lifechurch.tv, okay? There is a value to contextualization, all right? So whereas these tools are good, you know, and Craig Groeschel and Andy Stanley and these guys are phenomenal preachers, they don't know your congregation. All right? And so for you to just open up the internet, download a sermon, and preach a sermon on Sunday, probably not going to connect very well. All right? The word is meant to be spoken through you. The Holy Spirit's meant to lead you and wants to lead you. So use these sermon resources that we're about to talk about to spark some ideas. Yes?
The other danger is other people can find your sermon that you just preached because they can go to the same source.
Yes. And that has happened. There's been pastors that have been fired because their congregation Googled the title of their sermon and found out, oh, someone else preached that. Well, why are we paying you? Okay? So don't be dumb. So use these like you would use anything else, all right? Use it to get some ideas, to stir the creative juices, and those. But don't just download a sermon and preach it on Sunday morning. All right. Enough of that disclaimer. The first one that I'm going to show you is called Sermon Central. It's been around for a long time. I heard a couple uh-huhs, probably a couple nod heads, head nods. And so you've probably heard of this before. Nice little tool. Lots of different people can have uploaded things to it. You can look at sermons. You can search for illustrations. They've even got videos, PowerPoints, and all that on here now. So let's say you want to find something on John 3:16 because you want to talk about Tim Tebow on Sunday. Hey, Tebow's an American hero. Come on. And the closer to Denver you get, the more that's true. And so then you can pull up all these different sermons. They're rated. And there's your ads. Okay, and there's this guy's sermon. All right? So lots of great ideas that you can add. If you're feeling a little lack of creativity, or if you're just wanting to see what someone has said on a particular topic or a particular scripture, you can go in there, you can pull up lots of different sermons and be able to look and see those. Another tool that you can use is iTunes. All right, speaking of Steve Jobs, as we did a little bit earlier, created this tool called iTunes. And churches all over the country now podcast and they put their sermons online. A lot of those sermons are all in iTunes. So if there's a particular pastor that really speaks to your heart, that feeds you, that inspires you, you can go onto iTunes, download their sermons, and listen to them. I think there is a lot of value in that for us to be listening to the word that other people are preaching. Right? You can also go and listen to it just to get ideas. Again, it's just a great library of resources there. Endless amounts of hours. You could spend the rest of your life listening to the sermons that are there on iTunes. Let me pause there real quick because I know you guys probably use these tools a lot more than I do. What are some of the online tools that you're using to find these sermon resources? Okay, maybe not.
There's textweek.com.
Textweek.com?
Yeah, which is, it's actually a resource based on the lectionary, but it
Oh,
also
good.
has lots of sermon ideas, illustrations, searching through the lectionary, but it's all in text-based.
Yeah, good.
I pay for preaching today.
Preaching today, okay.
Rather good source.
Good.
But it's about $75 a year.
Okay, which, that's not too much considering probably what you get out of it.
Yeah.
So preachingtoday.com is another one. Was there a hand over here?
I'll just Google. And you pick up.
Yeah, just Google and you pick up, yeah, and you can pick up a lot of sermons that way as well. Good. Let's look at a couple of Bible study tools. All right. Now, I don't have this in here, but one of the great things about Bible study tools now, just the accessibility of the Bible is so easy now. Everybody's got a Bible because everyone typically has access, for the most part, has access to the internet. I will have a little confession time with you here and say that, a couple of years ago, I had, identified for myself that I just wasn't having enough consistency in my scripture reading. I was reading 3 or 4 times a week, but it was random. I wasn't planning it. And I just wasn't doing well enough. I wanted to do better. So for me, I work and play so much in email that I signed up online, and there's lots of different places to do that. One place I'll show you here in a second, where they will email you every day kind of daily verses to where you can be kind of reading. You can have it show up in your email, and you can be reading online with literally thousands of people all over the world that are reading those same things that you are, which is a pretty amazing thing, I think. All right, Bible study tools. This first one is called the Blue Letter Bible, all right? And we're going to just keep using John 3:16 as our sample text. All right, so I can type in John 3:16, and it'll bring it up here. And immediately, you see these numbers here. Now brownie points to anyone who can tell me what those numbers are. The Strong's number. Wow, this is a smart crowd. I thought maybe one person, but almost everyone. All right, so I can click on the Strong's number. It brings up the Greek word. If I'm like, oh, how do I say that? Because I want to look cool on Sunday.
Strong's G, 4100, pistuo. Pistuo.
All right. So that you make sure you pronounce it right on Sunday morning. Right? All right. Gives you, it gives you kind of the meaning of the word. There's Thayer's lexicon here. You can click for the rest of that entry. Here's concordance results where you can see where that word is used. You can get all kinds of lost in here. Right? Spend lots of time. Let me go back. All right, John 3:16. Here you can click on this and get into the treasury of Scripture knowledge. Click on this one. There's a concordance for the Greek and Hebrew. Click on this one, and it's a list of audio resources, study tools, and a list of commentaries. All right. Now these aren't going to be your $1,000 commentary sets that you're going to walk into Lifeway or go to CBD and buy. But there's some really good commentaries that are on here. You can get some good stuff there. Hymns. If you want to see what Psalms relate to it. Different versions and translations. And then dictionary aids. And all this is online for free. This is what is amazing to me, that you can get all this just at the click of a button. All right? You can come over here. There's images and maps from Old Testament, charts, all kinds of stuff to really dive deep into your Bible studies here. All right? Let me show you another one of these tools that I like. This one is called biblos.com. It's similar. I like the website's a little bit cleaner on this one than the Blue Letter Bible. But it's very similar in what it does. Did I type that in right? Yep. All right. So you got parallel translations. You've got context. Here again, if you want to look at the Greek, you can look at the Greek. You can get the morphology for the word. You can get the transliteration. There again is the Strong's number. I can click on it. It gives me definitions and different word study helps along the way. Related terms. And again, this is a whole lot more accessible than probably the 7 or 8 Greek tool books that you have on your shelf. Not that those you want to throw them away, right? Because you're still going to use those some. But this is a good first starting place. A lot of those things that might take you a little longer to find in a book, you can find very quickly here on these websites. Okay. Here's another one. Let me show you real quick. All right, this is Bible Gateway, and Bible Gateway is basically an online Bible, all right? It's free, anybody can use it, look it up, find verses. Lots of different translations here. Not only in English, but there's other languages as well. Spanish, French, Koine Greek, something else. All right, lots of different languages in here. So this is a really quick and easy tool. Again, here's an example of what I was telling you about earlier with reading plans. You can go in here and you can select your reading plan. Say you want a chronological reading plan and you want it in, where's mine? There we go. I like the New Living Translation. All right. and it'll pull up today's reading plan. And then here you'll notice your social media icons where you can share that out with people as well. All right. All right. Let me show you YouVersion. YouVersion, remember earlier I showed you the open church that was from lifechurch.tv, had all those free resources. Well, they definitely have a passion for Scripture at that church, and they decided that they wanted to create some kind of tool to make the Bible easily accessible to everyone. All right, so they've created what they call YouVersion, and it's similar to Bible Gateway in that it's got the Bible online, many different versions. But what's a little bit different is that not only can you access YouVersion from the internet, there are several mobile apps. You can access it from your phone. You can access it from your iPad, your tablet, whatever you've got. Again, they have different reading plans that are built in there. What's nice about this one is that you can create an account with YouVersion. You can highlight texts. You can take notes on texts. You can share those out with everyone else. So when you're reading it, you can kind of see these are texts that are frequently highlighted by people. Just a very, very handy tool to put the Word of God in the hands of your people. And what's great about this is that this is how younger people interact with media. They're not as likely to pick up the physical Bible, but they're going to get God's Word in a format that's applicable to them, something that they're used to kind of consuming. All right? So that's why I really like YouVersion. Now, there's another tool that they put out. and again, this one is a pretty cutting-edge tool called YouVersion Live. And you can think of YouVersion Live basically as a digital bulletin for your church. All right? You can put everything that's in your service that you'd normally put in your bulletin, you can put right into YouVersion Live. It publishes it through the internet. Anybody with a smartphone or any internet-connected device can pull up the app, and when they come to church, boom, it's right there. They can see your sermon notes. They can see scripture. Slides that you put up on the screen, they can see. It's just a really very, very advanced tool. Now you got to kind of have a little context with this one, because in some areas, like if I were to use this in Tuscola where I live, it's not really going to connect. No one's going to use it yet. Okay, so if you're in a more of a city area, an urban area, I'd recommend it. Probably for around here, unless you got a very technologically savvy community within your church, they're probably not ready for this. But be aware it's there, and it's coming. I think really in the next 5 years, this will be a tool, or tools like it, that many churches will be utilizing to communicate with their church. All right. Let me also highlight, I'm not going to pull this up on the internet, but it's on your list there, the Christian Classics Ethereal Library. All right? This one just, when I found this, it just blew my mind. There are a lot of books that are public domain, which means that the publishers don't have the rights to them anymore. They're not being sold, and you can access them for free. Well, it used to be public domain books. You still had to buy the book, right? Well, now they're just available for free because you can get them in a digital format. If you've got an e-reader or a tablet, you can download them for free in there. I've got several free Christian classics that I've got here on my iPad. Well, this Christian Classic Ethereal Library goes a little beyond that. They've got them all kind of put on there on the website where you can read, but then they've got a search engine built into it. So if there's a particular topic or scripture that you're researching or that you're studying, you can go to that website, you can search it, and it's going to search through all these Christian classics from down the ages and pull up references from out of all these Christian classics that you can look at and reference and be able to quickly quote if you want to use it in a sermon, or if you're just using it for your own personal edification, to be able to see what what people down the ages have said about these topics. Really, really neat tool. All right. The next tool I want to talk about for sermon and Bible study is one called Evernote. And the thing that the digital age has done to us is that it has exposed us to way, way too much information. You just can't absorb it all. You can't remember it all. All right? Doesn't matter how young you are and how smart, you just can't do it. It's amazing. Literally, encyclopedias of information get uploaded to the internet every minute. All right? No way to keep up with all that. Evernote bills itself as kind of as like an extension to your brain. All right? You can think of it as one of those things where you could, let me take a thought, and I know I'm not going to remember this, so I'm going to take it out and I'm going to put it here in Evernote so that later on I can go back to it. All right, so let me tell you a really cool way that you can organize your sermon illustrations through Evernote. All right, Evernote is just, they call them notebooks, okay? But really they're just, you think of it as a folder where you're going to pour a bunch of information into. You can pour anything. You can pour notes. You can pour files. You can take a picture and see, maybe you see a sign that's got a picture on it and it's got wording on it. You can take a picture of it, put it into Evernote, and Evernote knows what that sign says, knows what's on the words that are in the picture. And then you can search through Evernote, and it'll pull it right up. So if you remember, I remember that sign, it said on it, the word heaven, but I can't remember the rest of it. Type in the word heaven, and it's going to pull up everything, pictures, notes, everything that refers, to heaven in it. So let's talk about just one real practical use for this, all right? How do you capture all that stuff, all the emails, all the stuff on Facebook, all the things that we've shown in all these different web resources? How in the world do you collect all that into a place that's useful to you so you don't have to remember where it's all at? Okay, that's what Evernote's for. So let's say you're gonna preach on Romans coming up, all right? So you can create a notebook called Romans. And now as you're doing your study on all these different sites, you can stick all that, forward it right into your Evernote notebook, and have it all kind of in one place. Let's say, I remember I did an internship with Alan Algrim out in Rocky Mountain Christian Church in Colorado. And he brought me into his office one day, and this was an amazing thing to behold. He'd been preaching for years at this point, still is preaching. He probably has 2 rooms now. But he literally had file cabinets all over his room. And he told me as a young student who was preparing for ministry, he said, this is what you have to do, is that, create these files on every topic. And I mean, literally just file cabinets all over his room. And you could name a topic, he'd go over to the file cabinet, open it up, boom, pull out this big, thick notebook full of stuff, all these different sermon illustrations, newspaper clippings, magazine articles that he pulled out over the years and put in. It was amazing. I was in awe. All right? Well, now you can do that completely digitally. So Alan's, library of files, you could just have in the cloud. All right? And if you want to preach a sermon on heaven, you type in heaven, and every note that you put into Evernote on heaven is going to come right up. This is really a fantastic tool. So as you're researching and as you're learning things, you dump it all in there, and you're able to use it. You're able to search it. You're able to find it quickly and easily. I do this with receipts. I'm horrible at keeping receipts, right? Whether it's for home or work or whatever it is. So I just take a picture of the receipt. I upload it to Evernote, and if I'm like, I needed that receipt from Walmart. Type in Walmart, it pulls up all my Walmart receipts. Right? Pat?
Yeah, I was just going to clarify that that's one of the things that it does is that the OCR, the optical character recognition.
Yes.
So if you take a picture of something like a receipt or a business card or something, it can actually decipher what's in that picture, and then you can search on those words.
Yeah, say you're at a conference or you're at North American and you get a business card from someone. You can take a picture of it, put it in Evernote, and forget about it. It'll be there. And what Patrick's saying with that OCR technology is what it does is it looks at that picture that you've taken with the words on it, and it goes, and that says this guy's name, phone number, address. It remembers all. How it does it, I don't know, but it does it.
You don't have to type stuff in. You can just
You don't have to type it in. You just
Scan it, take a
scan it,
picture.
and put it right there. Yeah, absolutely. There are hundreds. I mean, we could spend an entire day talking about what to do with this one alone. I did put a resource in the notes there. It's a link, or if you Google it, you'll find it. Evernote for Pastors. It's an ebook that someone wrote that kind of gives you some tips and some ideas on how to do it. Again, Google uses for Evernote, and you're going to find lots of articles online about how people are using this tool to really revolutionize what their productivity and how they're remembering things. All right. Great tool. Any questions about the Bible study tools or Evernote or any of those that we've hit so far?
So do you have to download it or type it in, or what? I mean, you gotta.
For Evernote, yeah, it's again, it's a cloud-based app,
Okay.
so you can access it just through your browser. So you can access your notes from anywhere. There is a program for your computer or your PC or Mac. You can download it and have it right on, and have all those things right there on your computer. There's apps for your phone, your tablet. So really, any device that you've got, they've got some sort of application for it so that you can have access to it.
Do they sync among
Yeah.
among your various?
Yes, great question. Does it sync between all your different devices? The answer is yes.
It's right there.
Yep.
The middle one.
Yeah, access anywhere. Yeah, works with nearly any computer, phone, and mobile device out there. And it's free. Yeah, They do have paid versions of it, but for the majority of us, we're not going to use it enough to have to max out. They give a very generous amount for free.
I haven't played with it or know how accurate it is, but it even mentions it right there. Further to that, the OCR that we talked about, you can actually decipher handwritten text.
Yeah, now I have actually done this, all right? There's times where I still like to put pen on paper, particularly when I'm brainstorming, all right? So you can actually take your yellow legal pad, write out your notes, scan it and put it into Evernote and search by what that is. Now, for those of you who've been writing journals and filling all this out for years, you can now scan it all, put it into Evernote, and search it. Fantastic tool. And like I said, we're just scratching the surface of what's able to be done with this one. All right, let's go ahead and jump into social media, because I'm sure there's some curiosity and some thoughts on that too. And I'm going to assume that you already know a little bit about social media. And so I want to go back to those guiding principles that we talked about at the beginning. And that first one is you can't keep up, okay? You have to remember that. You can't keep up. There's lots of social media services out there, and more emerge all the time. And so I always tell my church planners, and church planners are very, very cutting edge. But I always tell them, invest your time in the social media tools that the masses are using. All right? Don't worry about the little ones that are emerging. Use just the ones that the masses are using. And for now, that's Facebook and Twitter. All right? Those are the two. And second, remember that you're leaving that digital footprint. So you may think your digital footprint is just your website. And you can pay to have a great website done and think, we're done with our digital footprint. That's not correct anymore. Right? More people are now using Facebook than ever, 800 million people. And so it's very possible, very likely, that the first place they're going to interact with you is going to be on Facebook. And so just like you spend time and money developing and making your website look friendly and inviting, you want to do that with Facebook as well. All right? So think through, what does it communicate if you're not on Facebook at all? What does that communicate about your church? What does that say to someone who's in their 20s that spends every day on Facebook? What does it communicate if you have a Facebook account and there's nothing on it? Right? So you really got to think through those things. All right. Let me jump into a couple of practical things that you can do with these. First, use Facebook and Twitter to study the people in your community. All right? This is a way to listen. Facebook and Twitter are great tools to listen to people within your community. All right? people are incredibly, stupidly transparent.
Bless their hearts.
Bless their hearts. I love it. I almost forgot that Tennessee saying. It's bless your hearts, which sounds good, but it's really an insult. All right. Let me show you one here. Again, Twitter is annoying to me. I don't really like it. Probably a lot of you are in that same camp. All right. I'm going to do something here. You can use Twitter to search just like you can use Google. All right. There we go. Refine results. So let's say I want to learn about the people of Johnson City. All right. And I want an unfiltered look. I can come in here to Twitter search, and I can come down here to places, and I can type Johnson City, Tennessee, within 15 miles, search. And it's going to pull up everything people have said in and around Johnson City, Tennessee. Please know I didn't dump Caroline. This was a mutual decision. She is one of the kindest, sweetest people I know. Please respect that. Now, if you just want a good laugh, you can come here because you'll probably find it. But again, people are open and they're much more open and transparent, I promise you, on Twitter than they're ever going to be with the pastor face to face. All right? Follow people in your congregation. See what they're saying online. See where they're checking in. All right? This is the other new thing, right? It's all about checking in. So, people will go somewhere and they'll check in. I had a pastor get in trouble the other day because he said he was sick and then checked in. Not at church. All right? Don't be dumb. All right? Okay? So, but again, if you really want to get a pulse for what's happening in your community, go on and listen. See what people are saying. This gives you a real flavor. Now, granted, there's going to be some things in there that you're not going to want to read. All right? But that's part of it, too, about learning about the people that are around you, because this is very unfiltered. All right? Now, here's the other thing is that you can set up, you can click Save This Search. And now I don't have to do it again. Now I can come in, next time I come to Twitter, that search will be available for me. Now I'm going to hear all about Johnson City. I better be able to figure out how to delete. Oh, there we go, delete. All right. Okay. And now, just as I've talked, there's 37 new tweets that have happened just right within 15 miles of here. That's how much people are using this to communicate. All right? So if you really want to get to know people, follow them so that you can listen more to what they're saying, interact with them. All right? The tools can be used that way. All right. Let me talk about the second one. Now, I'll just let it keep going. Social media is the most vain thing in the world, right? I mean, it's the most narcissistic tool that was ever developed by man. I mean, it just is. Everybody talks about themselves and about how wonderful they are and about what they're eating and about where they're going, and I don't care, all right? But everybody does it. Now, the problem is that churches aren't that much different. They get on Facebook and Twitter. They're pretty narcissistic, too. And they talk about their wonderful thing that they've got coming up, and then they talk about this, and they talk about, and then unfortunately we're not posting things that are all that different from what we complain about our people in our community posting. So what I want to tell you is post content that helps people, not just content that promotes. Okay? So if you want to be a church that's about family and about children, don't just promote and talk about your children's ministry and the things that you've got going on, but actually post things that can help people parent their children better. All right? Be generous with your content. All right? Because what you post, what you tweet, what you put out there is a reflection of who you are personally, of who your church is, and ultimately it's a reflection of our Lord Jesus. All right? So post content that's generous and helpful, not content that just is there to kind of market who you are and market the church. All right. Third, use these tools as a virtual building space. A virtual building space. All right? Small group meetings, Bible studies, informational meetings, etc. You can do these things online. There's a new tool that Google's got out called Google Hangouts, where literally you can get a dozen people all video chatting, and it's like you got a small group virtually on your computer screen. Now here's the great thing about it. Now, I've got a young family. I've got a 6-year-old son and a 4-year-old daughter, and it's difficult to find babysitting all the time. My kids go to bed at 7:30, so small group is really difficult. All right? Google Hangout, meeting with other Christians online to study the Bible and pray together is probably a much better format for someone like me than meeting in a home and having to drive to the church. All right? You may have people that live a half an hour away from your church, and to ask them to come in to a meeting all the time is just difficult. You can sit at home in your pajamas and and be a part of it just as easily as you can driving into the church. Now, our church planners utilize this all the time, and it's really amazing. I mean, you can host, instead of having to wait till evening, you can have a Bible study during the daytime, during the lunch hour, right? Where everybody can kind of come in virtually, where they don't have to drive. Now, again, you got to hold that in balance with what I said earlier about the incarnational piece and about getting face-to-face. But these are tools that you can use to connect and get people to interact in ways that they wouldn't be able to normally.
Does that have video as well, like Skype?
Yeah, you can use Skype. I don't know that you can do as many people on
They now
Skype.
have
Yeah.
a video.
Yes, and
Yes.
you can have at least 8 video heads going at the same time, so it's actually
On Skype?
better than, no, on Hangout.
On Hangout. Yeah, Hangout, I think you do about a dozen or so. Yeah, it's great. All right, let me talk real quick, too, about a couple of compilers. All right? If you're like me, if I am actually going to get, I don't like to post all the time, but when I do post, I only want to post once. I don't want to post to Facebook and then go over to Twitter, post on Twitter, then go to Google+, post on Google+. I want to post once and be done. All right, so there are a couple of tools that will do that for you that I've listed on there. Peen, PixelPipe, and Hootsuite. PixelPipe is the one that I like to use. Again, this is a free tool. And all you do is you put in your username and password for all your different social media accounts. You make your update one time, and it'll push it out to all those different services for you. All right? So if as an individual or a church, you don't want to enter all those multiple times, you can use a tool like that to do it for you. All right. Right before the break, someone asked the question about, what can we use to keep track of people, to keep track of tasks, and all these different things. All right. And really, the best answer to that is to use a church database. And these have been around, for ages and for years. All right, but previously they've only lived on one machine. All right, now they're all in the cloud. So the advantage, again, to the cloud is that anybody can use it from anywhere. Anyone can have access to it, which makes these church databases way more powerful. They're volunteer friendly, so if you don't want to have to do all the data entry and you have a volunteer that's doing that for you, instead of having to come into church and use your computer, they can use their computer at home. All right? These tools are much more social. And what I mean by that is just like in Facebook and Twitter and all these things, there's ways to interact with each other online. All right? And they integrate with your website. So that if you want to do event registration, you want to do online payments, you want to do all those sorts of things, they'll manage it all. This will be the back end for it, your database. Just for time, there's dozens of these, but I'm listing to you just 2 in your notes. The one that I like the best, and that the majority of our church planners at Stadia use, is a tool called Church Community Builder. And again, you can set up all your small groups, you can set up all your ministry teams, you can track all your people. It's very customizable, so if you have a specific follow-up plan for new visitors, and let's say for new visitors you want to send them an email that Sunday afternoon, and you want to send them a letter on Wednesday, and you want to assign someone to have a follow-up call with them, you can schedule all those things to happen automatically, all right? So once the data is put in and you say, oh, Patrick Bradley came and he was a first-time attender at the church, the database knows, okay, Sunday afternoon I've got to send Patrick that email. And then it knows that on Monday morning it needs to prompt you to write that letter, all right? And then it knows also then later on to say, okay, we need this other person to follow up with a phone call. And it can manage and track all that for you, and you can see where you're at in the process. You can see if someone hasn't done the follow-up that you've assigned them to do. So very, very useful and handy tool that you can use to really just manage all the people in your church. It used to be very, the common size for a church was, 50 people or so. That was a normal size, and we could keep track of people very relationally. But as as time has gone on, and churches are size of 100 and 150 and 1,000, and in some cases multiple thousands, tools like these are almost absolutely essential to be able to keep track and really minister to people and track where they're at spiritually. Another neat thing that you can do with these things is you can put in people's interests, you can put in their spiritual giftings, you can put in the experience that they've had, and then let's say you're creating a new ministry position in the church and you say, we really need someone with these kind of spiritual gifts that's served as a small group leader before. You put that criteria in there and it's going to pull up a list of people who match that. Okay, really makes a powerful tool for just discipling the people within your church. And that's one of the things I like about Church Community Builder is that their passion is discipleship, and so they built this tool to help you disciple people better. All right. This one does cost. They charge you based on how large your congregation is, and you're going to pay basically a yearly fee to access it. All right. There is a free one. All right. And in your notes, you see it as the Bellevue Church Management System. This is a church in Nashville that they built their own church database like this. All right. It's similar. It's not quite as robust and fancy and pretty as this one is, but it's very functional and can definitely get the job done. But what I'll say to you is that you really almost have to have an IT person within your church to be able to figure it out. I'm fairly techie, and I cannot figure out how to to upload it and get it all set up for a church. Okay, but there is a free option if you've got a technical person within your church. All right, let me just kind of close up kind of by talking a little bit about how do you kind of keep up with all this? How do you learn about the new stuff that's out there? Now, the obvious one I said earlier is Google, right? You can just Google it and find almost anything, all right? But there's some other great ways to do it as well, all right? One is just by following some blogs, all right? Blogs are basically people's, online stories and articles and things that they're sharing and putting up themselves. One that I like to look at that is very technology oriented but is also oriented around the church is called Church Mag. All right, and this takes all the latest technology stories and kind of talks about it in terms of ministry in the church. So you can learn quite a bit on here. Another one that I like is a website called Church Tech Today, which is also very similar to this, that they're going to talk about a lot of these tools that we've talked about tonight, talk about new tools that are coming out, and talk about how you can utilize them for the church. All right? So these are great blogs to subscribe to be able to kind of keep up on what's going on. I've got a blog as well, planningchurches.org, where I have a whole resource section where I talk about some of this. Patrick has a blog, his Just Call Me Bradley. Is that right? .com, where he talks about a lot of these different types of resources. And then the other thing I would say is just utilize social media. Connect with some younger pastors that get this. Connect with some students. Feel free to talk, and they're going to be flattered that you're asking them questions, right? And that's the beauty of the web, is that it is an interconnected thing. It is a place where you can go to interact and learn from other people, right? So definitely utilize those tools. All right, they're literally. I've got lots more things that we could talk about tonight, but I wanted again kind of just pause for a moment, have a time to ask some questions from you guys. What are you thinking? What questions do you have? Are there any other things that you've kind of learned tonight that you're thinking that maybe I haven't mentioned that's like, man, this would be a great way to utilize this technology in the church that you want to share with the group?
Here's an online question. Mark asks, what are some of the ways iPads and tablets are being used for ministry?
Well, this is one of them. I mean, I preach with my iPad when I preach. I use it when I teach now. At first it was just kind of to be cool. But I can put my outline, right on here, and I can just kind of scroll as I go. I've got my notes. You can have Bible apps, all that sort of stuff.
Using what software program?
I use an app called Goodreader because I like how it scrolls, and it's just an app that you can pull your files into and then view them here on the iPad.
So you actually type them on Microsoft Word or something, and then transfer them over to that?
Yep.
So
Yep.
you still don't get rid of the PC, do we?
You don't in that. You can create them on here if you want to.
Yes.
They're not as good though, are they?
They are a little more difficult. Now, I can't sit here and type on a keyboard that's on a screen. Now you can hook up a Bluetooth keyboard to it and be able to type that way. And when I go on a business trip, or if I'm only going to be gone for a couple of days, I leave the laptop at home and I do take this because it is incredibly convenient. Now you've got one that's almost the same size, and it is a computer.
Mine is better than hers. She's trying to brag. Mine is better than mine.
Yours is better.
See what he said?
That's because I'm an Apple guy, though. All right. The reality is, I think I saw somewhere like already. I mean, this device came out in 2010. All right, its second anniversary hasn't even hit yet, and already over a quarter of homes in America have one. It's just crazy, which is why I own Apple stock. All right, so they're going to become more and more used as well. We have a board at our church, a digital board, where we can actually control the mixing board from the iPad. So rather than being in the little sound booth, I can sit out in the chairs where everyone else is, and you can adjust the sound levels right there from the iPad. People are using them as teleprompters. There's all sorts of different applications for ministry. Again, we could probably have a whole night where we just talked about that.
I use a Nook, but I haven't used my printer in 6 months.
Yeah, it's environmentally safe.
That's what I'm preaching in Bible studies. I use Dropbox.
Which is a tool I wanted to talk about tonight, but we didn't get to. But Dropbox is basically online file storage in the cloud. So you can put all your music, pictures, files, all that up into Dropbox, and again, access it from any device anywhere, and it syncs.
That one actually leaves a copy on your computer so you can access it offline, and it synchronizes them, so it lives in both places.
What Patrick was saying there is you can access it offline as well as online because it'll sync to your computer.
It is so good that we can have iCloud and Dropbox, but don't you think the day is coming they will charge for that? And unless you won't have access to your...
It's kind of a part of the culture of these that they're gonna give you a little bit for free. I use a free Dropbox account, and it's enough to get done what I want to get done. Some people want to store more stuff in there, and so they get kind of hooked on the service, and they go, okay, well, now I'm going to pay, an annual fee to access that. iCloud's the same way. You get a little bit for free, and before long, it's not going to be enough, and you're probably going to want to pay for it. I'm already paying for iCloud storage.
They've come to call that model freemium.
Correct. It's a freemium model. A lot of these that are free that we show you, sometimes they're free because they show you an ad too. Like the Evernote has a little ad down in the bottom left-hand corner, and they're hoping that you click on that ad, because when you click on that ad, they get paid. Okay. Google is free. They put all their stuff out for free because, as I said earlier, they're learning about you. All right. Don't be fooled into thinking that everything that you don't put into Google is going onto a Google server somewhere, and then when you surf another website and you see an ad come up, it's coming up because they know a little bit about you. Now, I have actually, and this is kind of scary, but I've been on one website, like Amazon, searching for a particular product, gone to a news site that I like, and seen an ad on the side for that product I just searched for. All right? So they're listening. That, it's like Big Brother. All right? It doesn't bother me, though. This is part of life in the digital age. There is no privacy, and let's face it, with God there isn't a whole lot we hide either, right? Any other questions or thoughts that you guys have had?
I trust God with the information now.
Not Google. Until I start leading a much more interesting life, I'm not really worried about what Google's going to do with it either. So the question is, how secure are these things? And it's a valid question. There are times. I mean, these are cloud-based tools. They can be hacked. These companies spend millions and millions of dollars on making their products secure, because if they do get hacked, that could ruin their business. Right? So they're very, very cautious. Having good passwords, actually February 1st is coming up, and that's like National Change Your Password Day. All right, so changing your password, from time to time can help with that. Not being obvious in what you put your password so that people can't guess it. But there is a certain amount of, if you're connected, whether it's in the cloud or your computer is just connected to the internet, if someone wants to get at it and they're smart enough, they can get at it. It's just the reality of it. That's not meant to scare you. But I mean, let's face it, when we were writing things on paper for years, if someone wanted to get at it and they knew, they could come in and break into the church office and get it that way too. So, just depends on how paranoid you want to be.
Doug, thank you very much.
Yep.